One of the downfalls I would say to people that are going to be trying to build this, hopefully you can hear me, the wind is blowing extremely hard. It's supposed to get up to 30 miles an hour today. What's going on, y'all? It's Nick with Bear Family Farms. It's been about a year, I guess, since we set up the first timeless fence we ever did, and just wanted to do a quick review on what I think about it after having it for a year. So I would say, if you got really sandy, rocky soil like it is up here, it's going to be pretty difficult to do. You know, there hasn't been much rain. But I think that's really one of my only complaints with these things. Don't try and pound them in when there has been some rain, because you'll snap them. I have snapped one of them. As long as it's wet, they're going to go in pretty good, and they do pretty good against the sun so far. Actually, that's the one I snapped right there. There was no way I was ever going to get him out, so I just left him there. We did do it like this. It was our first time doing it, so we did come through these holes with them. This last one we built was probably, I don't know, altogether probably about 1,000 linear feet or so of this stuff. We went through the holes with that one. When I say we, Tyler went through the holes with that one. Did not use the wire hooked on there like that. And another thing we learned is those PVC posts, if you're really doing a hard turn, you might just want to go ahead and set an actual brace in there, whether it's a plastic brace or a metal brace, which is why all the recent ones that we've been building, we've been doing them out of metal braces and just insulating the wire, because pretty quickly we realized that this hard of a turn was not going to be enough as far as this PVC post. So I ended up setting a metal post in the back, and I plan on taking some wire and weaving through this pole once I drill a hole in there, and then kind of using wire to tie to that metal pole. This actually needs some tightening, you can see, so we're going to go ahead and tighten that real quick. Those ratchet straps are kind of my temporary wire that I got going on there. My first thought behind this little contraption was maybe these T-posts would be enough to hold it in the ground, but the bad thing about this clay rocky soil is, one thing, it's hard to get anything to grow in it. And second off, it's hard as a rock whenever it's dry, but whenever it's wet, it's like quicksand. So as soon as this stuff gets wet, it moves pretty easily, which is why we've only started using concrete and metal poles for all of the fence, whether it's woven wire, electric wire fence, anything that we're pulling off of from now on is going to be metal pipe and H braces.
Every now and then we see these really cool cactuses. They flower at the beginning of summer or spring, but I have one in my chicken coop that Nick ran over. But oh, there's one I get all over. I'm so excited because Nick almost killed mine. He's about to flower as well. Any more? But he's a biggin'. Oh, he's good. The little bugs really like him, so that is good. Really like him. Here, hold on.
So here's a more recent fence we built. We talked about how we're switching to metal braces now for everything that we build. It's going to make it better for future builds. If we ever need to switch over to woven wire, we have that ability now. The goats were in here. Over on the right hand side, you can see what it used to look like in that pasture on the left, but now, you know, that grass is coming up and the goats have cleared back the brush for us. We went through the holes on these PVC posts instead of wiring them to them like you just saw. And this area was actually pretty flat, so there wasn't a lot of elevation change. There was just one turn, which we're coming up on, and we stuck a metal pole there, and then we double H braced it, one at the top, or a beam at the top and a beam at the bottom. Kind of one of those things that we learned during our first build, and now we do it this way. They're spaced about every 15 to 20 foot on this one, unlike the one we just saw. Those are more like 8 to 12 foot apart, just because it's totally uphill, a lot more elevation change, and a couple more different turns. Go ahead and touch on cost real quick. We're talking about the 5 foot 1.5 by 1.5 inch PVC post here at 1,000 linear feet of fence with 4 wires on it. You're looking at about 82 cents a foot versus woven wire only 990 foot. You're looking at $1.98 a foot.
But we went ahead and put the sheet back here. We wanted to get ahead of this brush. It's starting to come up pretty hard and we didn't want it to get out of hand. Here's the sheep actually. Got a couple lambs on the ground. Sheep are happy to be in this little thicket of brush. They got water, plenty of grass in here. It's coming up in the back over there. One of the first times that they've been exposed to this single electric wire. They have been exposed to the Premier 1 electric netting. All these guys are shedding off their winter coat. We have a mix of 2 different types of hair sheep right now. We're working on crossing the Barbados or the black belly, Texas black belly sheep, however you know them, with some painted desert sheep, and there's a couple of royal white dorpers in there just to put some size on the lambs. Totally commercial, but we do have a registered painted desert sheep ram, and we have a couple of ewes that are desert painted sheep. So we'll have a lot of the purebred, I guess you could call them, as far as the desert painted sheep, or the painted desert sheep, whichever way you say them. Tyler's got a piece of the hair here off one of the...
And it just pulls right out, so when they rub on trees or anything, even fences, it'll come right off and shut off.
One of the downfalls, I would say, to people that are going to be trying to build this, hopefully you can hear me, the wind is blowing extremely hard. It's supposed to get up to 30 miles an hour today. But if you've got a lot of turns, if you've got a lot of change of elevation, I would not recommend 100% using just this kind of fencing. I would recommend, you know, just regular, as far as sheep and goats, you know, regular 4x4 square net wire or cattle wire or something. Rip. We got Rip and Remy in here watching over the sheep. The water table is actually supposed to be up here. We had a really bad dry summer and not a very wet winter. So we're hoping that here within the next few weeks that spring brings on some good rain. If not, then this specific stock tank will be in trouble. But we can always haul water in if needed, but not preferred. When we took over this property, there was trees all in this area. I came in with a dozer and cleared a bunch of them back, and ever since then, by moving the goats in here and putting horses and stuff like that back here, breaking up the soil, moving the soil around, letting sunlight in, we've actually started to see some grasses come back, like this little patch of blue stem here that's coming in, and a bunch of native grasses. We also came through here with, you know, ryegrass, and we put a little bit of Bermuda seed in there. We broadcasted all types of seeds, a bunch of native soil or native seed mix as well. So slowly but surely we're starting to see more grasslands come back to this area once we took out some trees and let some sunlight in. But all this, you know, all this right here is just why you see a lot of patchiness in the grass, is because there was no grass. So it's starting to get established. It's been coming on 3 years now, so starting to come together.
Go ahead and wrap it up with the pros and cons real quick. So the pros on my side are quick installation. It's very cost efficient fence. It's an easy to repair fence, and the PVC posts are flexible. They basically sit down on the ground and stand right back up. which allows, you know, deer, turkey, all that stuff to fly over. If they hit it, they're not getting caught in it. Cons on our side, in our opinion, would be, like we said, not great for major elevation changes or lots of turns and twists in your fence. It's hard to get into the ground when you have rocky clay soils or you have dry conditions. Unlike steel posts, when you're building regular fence, they go in, they don't bend or break when you're pounding them into hard rocky soils. It just takes a little bit more manpower. And if you don't clear a wide enough path while you're building this electric fence with these poles, the maintenance on the fence is going to be a lot more in the long run. So that's a con to that ordeal, because vegetation will grow on your fence will ground out, your fence is now ineffective. If your animals are not 100% broke to the wire, then they're going to be getting out.